postpone indefinitely, which is equivalent to what you call passing over, right? Okay. We can go ahead and vote on the Finance Committee's motion after we hear from Mr. Sturtevant.
Thank you, Mr.
Moderator.
Moderator.
Mr. Sturtevant.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just want to reiterate that our recommendation isn't necessarily based on the merits of this article. Our recommendation is based on the financial situation that we're facing now and what looks to be very dire financial situation in April. The state is only getting worse, and there are many, many other things that need to be considered, and everything should be considered all at the same time. That's what our recommendation is based on. Thanks.
Okay, on the motion immediately before us is the motion to postpone the main motion under Article 3 indefinitely, which effectively takes it off the table until April. On the motion to postpone indefinitely, it takes a simple majority. All those in favor, please say aye. Wait a minute, let's do that one over. I just want to make sure that everybody understands what they're voting on. If you vote in favor of postponing indefinitely, then you're in effect defeating the main motion and taking it off the table. If you want to continue considering the main motion, you have to vote no on the motion to postpone indefinitely, okay? Now, on the motion to postpone indefinitely, all those in favor of postponing indefinitely, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The chair is in doubt. All those in favor, please raise your right hand, and would my tellers please go to work? Ms. Benjamin, 12. Mr. Casazza, 12. Mr. Mosseri, 30. All those opposed, please raise your right hand. Ms. Benjamin, 17, 1-7. Mr. Mosseri, 25, 55. Mr. Casazza, oh, not, sorry. Didn't mean to rush you, Mr. Casazza.
65.
65. The vote is 54 in favor, 137 opposed. The motion is not postponed. Now we're back to the main motion. Mr. Pasquale, did you want to make an amendment to the main motion? Mr. Pasquale. He's gone. Wow. Mr. Piero, you were seeking recognition before, and then we'll take the lady on the other side. Mr. Piero, please state your name and address, sir.
Jerry Piero, 17 Rogers Circle. We have no money, that's true. But we have 160 lots in this town here. Why don't we sell? What's happened to 160 lots we got in this town here?
Mr.
Nobody wants to sell them, right? But we got no money.
Somebody raising a point of order? Oh, lady.
That was my heavy breathing.
Please
I'm sorry.
state your name and address, ma'am.
Anna Kleinfeld, 82 Haverhill Street, and I apologize if this is not in order at this time, but are we still on need for a discussion in regards to the appropriated money, both for the skateboard and for the board, the sidewalks at this time? I'd just like to make a comment. Is that in order or not?
A comment on what subject, ma'am?
Well, actually, I feel they go hand in hand. And so I think, you know, both the sidewalks and the skateboard park does go hand in hand. And I just would like to point out, living at 82 Haverhill Street, I think that the skateboard is a wonderful idea for the youth, and I also think that the sidewalks are extremely important for the skate park to be effectively safe for the kids. Because how are the kids who cannot drive going to get down there? They're going to get down there by the sidewalks. And I think it should be taken into close consideration in regards to having every sidewalk that's going to go toward that park in good working conditions for them to be able to accommodate doing this.
Thank you. Mr. Pasquale, you're back.
Nature was calling.
The microphone still doesn't seem to work, right? Could we try the front microphone again? I know it's tough. Mr. Pasquale.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to amend Article 3. And the only thing I'm changing is the appropriation of the money. I'd like to put down $260,000 for the sidewalk and $16,200 for the public skateboard.
Okay, the motion is to amend the main motion by changing the amount. The total remaining the same, $276,200, but the components changing to $260 for the sidewalks and $16,200 for the skateboard arena. On your motion to amend, Mr. Pasquale, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, I attended the Selectmen's meeting and Rita Mullen did an outstanding job presenting. I'm in favor of skateboard park. There's a song I used to sing years ago. I have often walked at the beat at night. I walk around the town quite a bit. I'm not going to dwell on the need for the sidewalks. My first skateboard encounter was on Hickory Lane. So I got neighbors' kids that come down the street and they let me try it out at 65. I jump up on the thing. Then it started at the library and I saw the problem at the library. And the kids moved from there behind where the Fleet Bank is. There was another bank and they moved out, so the kids decided to use the island. And what I saw now on Saturday and Sunday nights, what the kids are now using is the park over here right across from the mobile gas station. And they got a great trick now. You come at full speed right against the light and then you got to stop quick and do a 180. So skateboards, and I've seen paperboy fellas delivering and everything. There's a need for skateboard park. We got to conserve some money, folks. You're listening to the Finance Committee. Yeah, I'm talking about a difference of $10,000, but down deep in my heart, they've already got $35,000. I'm saying give them $15,000 more. I've seen some skateboard parks. You can build a pretty fancy skateboard park for $50,000. You don't need all the bells and whistles. You still can open up the ground, put everything down, and come back in April if it runs over. But I think we got to show faith in both sides here. Just giving $26,000 out, now you got a $60,000 facility, and everybody's saying, what do we have? Well, turn your TV on, and it's going to be like in California with all these dip and whoop and everything around. Remember, other children other than North Reading are going to use it once it's in Ipswich River Park. That's the law. So for the kids in this town that raise the money, God bless them, but they got to realize they don't own it, and it's open to everybody. So my proposal is save another $10,000, put it in the, we got to go and bond. Mr. O'Leary made a statement was very valid. I'm older than most of you. I stood here for 10 years and here we're going to do something about the sidewalks and it keeps getting cut. And I know all the streets that you walk. There's women with baby carriages now in the street. There's people walking their dogs on a leash in the street. There's people, what? Put the sidewalks. Higher priority, that's all I'm saying. Not minimizing the need for skateboard. Don't put it off. We ought to start construction for the kids in the springtime, but we don't need a $60,000 facility down Ipswich River Park. Thank you for listening, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Pasquale. Mr. Romano?
Yes, Tony Romano, 8 Marshall Street. Point of information, I'm wondering I'm told that the money that we have that we're considering would pay for approximately a mile of new sidewalk. And I'm wondering, do we have an estimate of how much new sidewalk is in fact estimated to be needed, and how much has to be repaired, and should we have to pay for all of this at one time? What is the estimated part of that? I'm trying to get at what percentage of our need is being addressed by this money at this point.
Mr. O'Leary.
Just based upon the discussions that the board has had recently in relation to this issue, it would appear as though we're leaning towards bonding a program which would, as Mr. Hanlon pointed out, you know, the $250,000 will buy a mile of sidewalk. To us, that's not a cost-effective way of addressing the issues necessarily, as well as the maintenance and upkeep. So I think what we're going to be looking towards now is using this as seed money for bonding a program, which will be an ongoing program for several years into the future. So we're talking many miles of roads and maintenance and upkeep of the current sidewalks that we have. But the $250,000, as Mr. Hanlon put it, will buy you 1 mile of road, 1 mile of sidewalk. We don't think that that's adequate and useful purpose for these funds. Use it as seed money to bond a program to carry us into the future and address the needs that we have had to neglect.
Thank you. Mrs. McMullen.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Laura McMullen, 4 Baldwin Lane. Regarding the skateboard park, I just wanted to mention, in terms of what John was saying, when Rita Mullen, excuse me, I'm making you my sister, Rita. When Rita Mullen first approached us regarding the skateboard park, the request was for $75,000 to $100,000. So it's already been downsized, John. There are actually 2 pieces of equipment that they initially wanted at the park, which will now be put off. So the original request, John, was for $75,000 to $100,000. Rita said they could do it at a bare minimum of $60,000, postponing the installation of 2 pieces of equipment they do want. They'll put that off. Maybe we'll put them in later, maybe we won't. But it's been downsized, what I understand, to the bottom dollar at this point.
Mr. Woods. Please state your name and address, sir.
Brian Wood, Parks Director. I would like to corroborate what Ms. McMullen said also. If you size down the amount of money that they're asking for, basically you're going to negate the project. You're going to cancel the project. I mean, the project represents in-kind services. It represents basics in construction practices, and it also represents a level of quality of construction. We want to build this so that we're not going back every 3 months or 5 years or whatever, doing maintaining to this that's going to be a cumbersome cost detriment to the Department of Parks. So that we need to build something that's going to last and that's going to hold up and doesn't fall apart shortly after you put it in. So there are some criteria that we mandated to the skateboard people, the skateboard committee, that required them to look at certain pieces of equipment that we would need to have in there. So again, if the number went down $10,000, it would pretty much postpone the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. You have a brief follow-up question,
yes,
Mr. Romano?
I wasn't clear. The answer that I got, I don't believe it gave me an answer. I'm wondering what percentage of the total sidewalk is being affected here, and I'm trying to gather whether it's going to be materially affected, the sidewalk in its entirety. The project is going to be materially affected by subtracting this money, or if it's relatively insignificant. In other words, if we need, I don't know what the estimate is, if it's 75 miles of sidewalk, of which we have the money for 1, and we're taking out $30,000 of that 250, then that would seem to me to be a relatively small amount of money. Am I correct?
Maybe I can summarize your question for Mr. O'Leary, and that is, we're talking about a difference of $10,000. How much sidewalk does a difference of $10,000 buy us?
That's not quite it. I want to know how much sidewalk do we need altogether? What's the total deal?
Well, you saw the fine print that Mr. Hanlon put up. That's what's on the scope. That's what's needed right now and identified. If I might just defer to Mr. Hanlon at this point, then I'd like
to. You've got a number of areas regarding sidewalk initiatives. You have the gaps in the community are